What's going on everyone, how are we doing? Welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, we're going to be speaking about risk management, something that I feel has kind of fell off the face of the earth. Not enough people are speaking about it. You know how we do on this channel, we keep it 100% real at all times. It's a video that's been requested for quite some time, and although I've touched on it in various different videos, I've never designated a full video to risk management. So in today's video, I figured I would do exactly that. I'm going to be covering how to manage risk on funded accounts, verifications, and even when you get the live account. Obviously, this can be implemented, of course, into your personal accounts as well, but everybody has their own risk appetite when it comes to their own personal funds. What I would say is just make sure you're not losing 40, 50 trades in a row, losing half your account before you realize you should probably implement risk management. Risk management is something that keeps us in the game long term. A lot of people are going into challenges on absolute smoke and they don't have any contingency plans for if they experience drawdown, but they also don't have plans for when they're in profit, how to utilize that profit to pass some of these challenges. Now, for the purpose of this, I'm going to be using a 200k account and I'm going to be using a 1 to 3 risk reward. It's very simple. It keeps things easy. Obviously base this on your own parameters, but I'm trying to keep it generic and for the sake of the video. So let's say you start a 200k account. What I would recommend is risking 1% per trade when you get the fresh account, purely because if you win that first trade, you go straight into profit and you win a 1 to 3, you are 3% up on that account. What I would do then is I would double my risk to 2%. Therefore, if I win the next trade, that gives me a 6% return because we've doubled the risk and the 1 to 3. And now we're at 9%, which on a lot of challenges, they only ask you to make 8%, therefore you would be done. And if there was a challenge that needed 10%, you would be 1% away. Now, what's really important here, and this is something I think people get misconstrued, if you are 1% away from passing the challenge, what I would recommend is knocking your risk back. And the reason I say this is you only need 1%, right? There is no need to now risk 2% or 1% to pass that challenge. Yes, you may think I only need it to run 1 to 1 or I need it to run half an hour. But if it loses, you're setting yourself backwards and you're gonna need 2R or 3R. So what I would do here is I would risk 0.5%. Therefore, if I win a 1 to 3, I'm passed, 10% challenge is done, right? So that is how I would approach if you were starting a brand new challenge or verification account. On a live account, being real, I'd probably just stick to 1%. Now, what I want to add is if after winning that first trade, so we've gone 3% up, if when we double our risk to 2% and we lose and we go back to +1, I would go back to 1% risk until I achieve that 3% benchmark, and then I would double my risk again. This is very important that you do this. It's not saying, oh, I won once, risk 2%, lost, risk 2%, drawdown, risk 2%. No, this is where you have to be accountable, you have to be disciplined, and you have to make sure you're aware enough to not fall into that trap and get greedy and look at the numbers. This is purely based on if you win your first trade with a 1 to 3, you can double your risk. And what I would say is understand your winning streak. Now, we never know the sequence of the wins and losses, but if you know that on average, over a large sample size, you perhaps win 2 to 3 trades in a row, if you win that first trade and then you double your risk, there's a high chance that one could hit, therefore passing that account. Therefore, when you go into verification, you could see the L or you could see another win, and I would simply repeat that process. If you take that 1% trade and you lose, we're down to -1, right? What I would do is I would get myself to -3. Once I go below -3, you could do some -4, it's down to you. I would suggest doing it before you get to half percent down of the account, because remember, these funded accounts, you sometimes only have 8% drawdown. If I go below -3, what I would recommend is then decreasing my risk to 0.5%. Now, I know this is kind of counterintuitive, and I've said this in other videos, you're making it harder for you to get out of drawdown, but at the same time, you're investing your hard-earned money, and if you've got a live account and you don't have these risk parameters in place, if you were to spend all this time getting the account and then you don't have a contingency for drawdown and you lose the account, it literally makes no sense. The whole point is to keep these accounts for a long period of time, to make as much money as possible, to funnel into our own personal accounts and to funnel into other assets and whatever it might be. The message here has to be keeping the account. So if you go down, if you lose that trade, you're -1. If you lose another trade, you're -2. If you lose another trade, you're -3. Now you have to go, right, I'm gonna risk half because I'm allowing myself a lot more trades. Because let's face it, let's say you have an 8% drawdown. You say you have 8 trades, but with slips and commissions, you probably have 6.5 to 7 trades depending on the broker. So this is where I would say as well, make sure you know your max loss streak. If you're out here trading 3 or 4 pairs and your loss streak on each pair is like 4 or 5, the likelihood is you could blow your account to bits. So you need to be aware of this, therefore bringing in contingencies to lower that risk. Again, I've been getting a lot of messages lately from people going, oh, I'm trading low, I've got a really good system and I've started trading more pairs and it's causing me a problem and now I'm losing loads and I'm in massive drawdown. And it's like, well, just don't add in loads of pairs, or stop trading all the pairs at once. Pick which one has the better setup and trade that pair. And let's say for myself, I know my max loss streak is between 4 and 5 on say GU or EU. If I'm trading both GU and EU at the same time and they both hit a losing streak, I know I could see -8, -10. So if I'm seeing that in my head, if I'm risking 1%, there's no way I'm going to keep a funded account if I'm starting from break even, right? Because I'm likely, if I could lose 8 to 10 trades without a win in the middle, I'm going to blow the account to bits, and it's not worth doing. So what I would do is if you lose 3, you're like, okay, cool, I've lost 3, I've got around 5 to 7%, depending on the firm and the drawdown rules and whatnot. Some are 8, some are 10, some are even 12. Then you go, right, I'm gonna half my risk. So you've just doubled the amount of losses you could take. Therefore, it gives you peace of mind that there's a very high chance you're not gonna hit that max drawdown period. You may go into more drawdown, and then eventually you'll come out of it the other side, because we're letting probabilities play out. As soon as you're above that 3%, so let's say you win, you go to 2%, I would go back to 1% risk. And this is literally how I would navigate it. I would have that very simple rule where it's like, if I'm in profit, I will use the profit to get these challenges done. If I'm in drawdown, it's fine. Drawdown is where traders are made. It's normal. You're not gonna get through this industry without experience in drawdown. And this is why risk management is key, because if you don't have good drawdown parameters, you go into drawdown and you never come out, you're not going to get very far longevity wise in this trading industry, because you can't just rely on, if I don't win that first trade and I go into drawdown, I'll never get out. Because to be honest with you, you should probably pack your bags and stop trading in the first place. You need to find a way to know that if I'm in drawdown, it's part of the process, I'm disciplined, I'm content enough to know my system, my mental capacity. This is a big one. When in drawdown, it can definitely test your mental strength. I've done the work to ensure my mindset is 100% ready. So if I'm in drawdown, it's part of the game, we follow the probabilities, we execute the plan, we get out of drawdown. You have to look at it the bigger picture. If you've worked really hard to build up $1 million in funding and you have no contingency plans for drawdown, there's a very high chance you're going to lose that funding at some point. And yes, you may have made a couple of $100,000 from it, but why would you go through the hassle of losing it to then have to go and get it all again just because your ego didn't let you lower your risk in the moment when it was needed? Yes, risking 1% at all times is great, and if you're someone that doesn't experience large drawdowns, then just stick with 1%. But what I would say is you have to have data to know, but you also have to remember your data is just based on a simulated environment where you're being perfect. The markets are never perfect, so there's a chance you might take silly trades in live trading that could make that losing streak go from 3 to 6. So you have to be mindful that you could see a bigger drawdown live than in your testing due to human error, which is completely normal and it can happen at times. So that is how I would personally approach them. And like I say, when you get the live account, I would approach it the same. I just probably wouldn't risk 2% once I'm in profit. If you wanted to do that, by all means feel free. But what I would say is don't be an idiot, don't be a dick, and make sure you're getting a refund. One of the biggest things I've said for years now is when you pass a funded account, biggest priority should be getting that refund. So if you take a trade, you win a 1 to 3, what I would personally do is I would stop trading, I would take that 1 to 3 as a payout, I would get my refund, then you can look at reinvesting that into another challenge if that's what you want to do, and you've made some money, so that account is now completely risk-free and you can just keep rolling like that. The other one I was going to mention for a second one, for someone that doesn't want to have all those thoughts and just wants to sit with things nice and easy, I would just simply risk 0.5% straight out the bat, because what that's doing is if we take it on an average of, let's say your drawdown is 8% is what you're allowed. You've got 16 trades before you would violate that, and that's without any wins happening. And the chances are if you're taking 16 losses in a row without a win, you've got a system problem, your system is broke and you need to work on fixing that, or your mental state is absolutely appalling and therefore you shouldn't be doing a challenge in the first place. Yes, risking 0.5% will make it harder for you to hit the profit target, depending on the risk reward that you have. Obviously, if you're someone that swing trades or you have bigger RR, maybe 0.5% is perfect for you. If you're doing 1 to 3s like myself and you're doing 0.5, I am making that goalpost a lot further forward. But what I would recommend is, again, once you're in profit, you could then increase that to 1% and climb slowly like that. But it's all about ensuring that it's based on your trading style. I'm not telling everyone here, go and risk 1% straight off the bat if you know your system is very high risk or you're scalping and you might take hundreds of trades a day. Of course, you need to risk manage and put that into your own category of parameters. But this is a video I get asked so much, and I just figured I would do it. Hopefully it helps. Appreciate all your love and support. Catch you in the next one. Peace and love, gang.